Hi. A mandatory exercise for a course I'm taking is to get out of my comfort zone. Because I didn't want to approach 10 strangers and offer a hug, nor lie down on the sidewalk for 3 minutes, it's cold here. Of the 9 suggested activities for leaving one's comfort zone, I chose make a video about your greatest fear and send it to everyone you know. Here's my greatest fear: that the Liberal Party of Canada, under Prime Minister Trudeau, will prohibit civilian firearms ownership. If this happens, only criminals and state agents, many of whom are also criminals, will have a monopoly of force, and us civilians will be defenseless. Why am I afraid of that? Because when we're defenseless, they can do anything they want. Do you know the leading cause of death in the 20th century? It was murder by one's own government. I know what you're thinking. Oh no, that would never happen here in Canada. We're polite and happy. We have Tims and hockey. Who needs a gun anyway? Did you know there are more Canadian licensed firearms owners than adults who play hockey, football, the other football that's called football even though it's more handball, and lacrosse? Target shooting is one of the few sports in the world in which physically challenged and able-bodied children, women, and men can compete side by side. There's another reason why law-abiding citizens need firearms: for protection of life. It's a right. We all have the right to protect our lives. Since most of us aren't physically capable of fighting like movie action heroes, we need guns as equalizers. Coalition for Gun Control spokesperson Wendy Kuki, Frank Graves of Echoes Research, who uses polling questions to influence public opinion, a majority of Liberal Party members of Parliament and their unelected senators, mayors and council members of some large Canadian cities, are all calling for civilian disarmament. Much like the idiots running Scandinavian and European countries, these Canadians truly believe that it's more civilized for a woman to be raped and strangled with her pantyhose than for her to explain to police why her attacker has 2 smoking holes in his chest. To these politicians and activists, the number of raped and murdered women is irrelevant. Their excuse is criminal gangs are shooting up their cities, and rather than focus on the criminals, which takes thought and bravery, they're going after the statistically safest group of Canadians: law-abiding firearms owners. This disarmament crew crow about Australia, Britain, and Japan, quoting false and misleading statistics to show that a disarmed society is a better society. They're lying. Those are island nations that don't share a border with the freest nation on earth. There have been many mass shootings, bombings, and beatings to death murders in those countries. When guns are banned, violent home invasions and other violent crimes increase beyond control, because criminals know their victims are defenseless. In England, tossing acid in people's faces has become common. Plus, Britain has just banned knives. If you're caught carrying a pocket knife, you'll spend 4 years in prison. Do you want to see knives banned in Canada? Because that's exactly what happens after criminals are emboldened by gun bans. The gun-grabbing ass-clowns of Canada want us disarmed and afraid so they can do whatever it is they've planned for us sheeple. Oh yeah, you find that difficult to believe. I don't, because I read history. Every time a group has been disarmed, that group becomes victims of those who have the guns. Every single time. Don't believe me? Okay. Turkey in 1915, estimated 1 million Armenians and an estimated 500,000 Greeks murdered. Russia in 1917, estimated 20 million murdered directly by violence or through deliberate starvation under Lenin and Stalin. Germany and Europe, 1938 to 45. Estimated 6 million exterminated in camps. China, 1949 to 70, estimated 60 million murdered under Mao. Pakistan in 1971, estimated 1 million Bangladeshis murdered. Cambodia, 75 to 79, estimated 1 million murdered under Pol Pot. That's only a partial list. Sadly, there are many more. Everyone in those countries thought they were too civilized for such madness and murder to be perpetrated upon them by the government they elected. You still don't believe that can happen here, do you? I understand you don't want to believe it. Neither do I. I only know it because I read history. Remember when Liberal Prime Minister John Crouton choked a protester on national television, and then, like the lawyer he is, claimed to not know what happened? Without private firearms ownership, he could have killed that protester on camera, and nobody would stop him. Governments and other criminals begin murdering innocent civilians after falsely claiming that removing the people's right to defend themselves is for the public good. It's a scam. As soon as your guns are gone, they'll descend upon you and do their worst. And while the government is preparing its evil plans, criminals will know you're helpless and will quickly have their way with you too. Fear a politician who fears your guns.